Be me, 28, working in marketing at a company that talks a big game about gender equality, but still somehow pays me $48,000 a year, while the men downstairs moving boxes are pulling in nearly the same for what's basically unskilled labor. It was a Tuesday, lunch break in our depressing little break room with the fluorescent light that flickers like it's trying to communicate in Morse code, and the coffee maker that's been broken since August. I was sitting with Amber from HR, Kyle the designer, and Dave, this senior account manager who used to work in logistics before he graduated to corporate life. We were talking about some viral tweet about the gender pay gap, the usual discourse. It's absolutely real, I said, stabbing my salad with more force than necessary. I have a bachelor's degree. I've been here 4 years. I work just as hard as anyone in this building. But I guarantee the men here make more than me for doing the same thing. Dave looked up from his phone. He had that expression men get when they're about to explain something to you. Sometimes it's not about gender, Jess. It's about the type of work. I felt my jaw tighten. What's that supposed to mean? I just mean, he started, but I was already pulling up our company's internal job board on my phone. I'd looked at it before. Out of curiosity, I knew what I was looking for. Look at this, I said, turning my screen toward the table. Warehouse associate, $19 an hour. I did the quick math, $39,520 a year for moving boxes. Meanwhile, I'm managing 3 client accounts and making $48,000. Amber made a sympathetic noise. Kyle suddenly became very interested in his sandwich. Dave sighed. Jess, I worked that exact job for 3 years before I moved to this department. That $19 an hour. It's not the full picture. Any woman could do a man's job, I cut him off. And my voice came out louder than I intended, but I didn't care. This is exactly what I'm talking about. You're all sitting here acting like manual labor is some kind of impossible achievement that justifies paying people more when it's literally just moving things from point A to point B. I'm not saying it's impossible, Dave said, with that infuriating patience. I'm saying it's harder than you think. The base rate looks decent until you understand what they're actually doing for it. The hours, the physical toll. Sounds like you're threatened, I said. His expression hardened just slightly. I'm trying to help you understand. I understand perfectly. The patriarchy assigns value to masculine work and devalues feminine labor. It's textbook. The table had gone completely silent. Amber looked uncomfortable. Kyle was actively trying to disappear into his turtleneck. You know what? I said, feeling that surge of righteousness that comes when you know you're right and everyone's too cowardly to admit it. I'm going to prove it. I'm going to apply for that job. Jess, Dave said slowly, carefully, I'm serious. That job will break you. The pay looks good on paper, but the reason is systemic gender bias in how we value different types of labor, I finished for him. I'm not scared of hard work. Dave stood up, collected his lunch container, shook his head. Good luck, Jess. I genuinely mean that. The thing is, I've been living this my entire life. My older brother Tyler is an electrician, makes $62,000 a year. Our parents worship the ground he walks on. Tyler's doing so well. When are you going to get a real career? Never mind that I went to a 4-year university, that I create marketing campaigns for actual corporate clients, that my work requires creativity and strategic thinking. He works with his hands and gets treated like he's building civilization one wire at a time. This was my chance to prove what I'd always known. It's not harder. It's not more valuable. It's just coded as masculine and therefore worth more in our sexist economy. That night, I filled out the application. It took maybe 12 minutes. Easy questions, basic info, availability. 2 days later, congratulations! You've been selected to move forward in our hiring process. See? They were desperate for workers. This was going to be easier than I thought. The orientation email arrived 3 days later. Wear comfortable, closed-toe shoes. Bring water bottle. Prepare for physical activity. Business casual, not required. I stared at that last line and thought, well, Obviously. I kept my marketing job. This was going to be part-time, 3 10-hour shifts a week. Just enough to prove my point, collect some paychecks, then quit with the satisfaction of being right. I'd thought about writing a Medium post about it. I did a man's job, and here's what I learned about the pay gap. The warehouse was 30 minutes outside the city, this massive concrete complex that looked like it could house a small airport. I'd driven past it hundreds of times without really seeing it. Now, walking through the employee entrance at 5:45 a.m. on a Wednesday, everything felt too big, too industrial, too much. The orientation room smelled like concrete and cardboard and some kind of chemical cleaner 20 of us in plastic chairs facing a projector screen. Mostly men, except one older woman, but I mistook her for a man at first LOL. The video started. Safety protocols, benefits package, company values, performance expectations. Then the metrics appeared on screen. Our standard pick rate is 300 to 350 items per hour. Accuracy must be maintained at 99.5% or above. Time off task, including bathroom breaks, water breaks, and any non-productive activity, must remain under 5 minutes per hour. Productivity is tracked in real time via your handheld scanner. I leaned toward the tall kid next to me. Maybe 22? Wait, they actually track bathroom breaks? He nodded without looking away from the screen. Yeah, it's intense. The video went on. Performance rankings, improvement plans, grounds for termination. I told myself it was just corporate liability stuff. They had to make it sound strict for legal reasons. No way they actually enforced all of this. After the video, a guy in a bright yellow safety vest introduced himself. I'm Liam, one of the senior trainers. I'll be working with some of you today on the pick floor. He looked about 29, had that lean, functional build you get from actually using your body instead of just doing aesthetic workouts. He seemed friendly enough, smiling as he checked his clipboard for names. Jessica? Here. Great, you're with me. Pick floor, handheld scanner. You'll be in section D. We walked onto the main floor, and I actually stopped walking for a second. The warehouse stretched out like a small city. Endless rows of industrial shelving 3 stories high, forklifts beeping in the distance, people moving with these rolling carts, the constant white noise of scanners beeping and items thudding into bins. Liam handed me a scanner that looked like it had survived several small wars and a rolling cart. You done anything like this before? Not exactly, I admitted. But I mean, how complicated can it be? Scan, grab, move to the next one. He smiled, but something in his eyes looked like he'd heard this before. Yeah, that's the concept. The complicated part is doing it 300 times an hour for 10 hours straight while maintaining accuracy. I noticed other workers near their stations doing these elaborate stretching routines, putting on knee braces, wrapping their wrists, rolling out their shoulders like they were preparing for a marathon. It seemed overly dramatic. All right, Liam said, demonstrating the scanner. This'll tell you where to go. Aisle number, section letter, shelf level. Scan the item barcode, drop it in the bin marked with the order number on your cart. Pretty straightforward. The system tracks your rate automatically, so just keep moving and you'll build speed. He ran through one pick cycle, made it look effortless. Scan, grab, drop, move. 5 seconds. Got it, I said. The first hour, I felt good. Confident even. I was hitting maybe 180, 190 items, and sure, that was below target, but it was literally my first day I just needed to build up speed. Liam checked in around hour 2. You're doing fine for day 1. Don't burn yourself out early though. It's a marathon, not a sprint. The condescension annoyed me. I'm fine. But by hour 3, my feet were hurting in a way I hadn't experienced since that hiking trip in college. My lower back had this tight, burning feeling. I was down to 160 items per hour. My brain getting sluggish, trying to process the alphanumeric codes on the scanner. I watched Liam across the floor, moving at what had to be 400 items per hour, chatting easily with another worker, completely relaxed. The tall kid from orientation, Jake, was in the section next to mine, clearly struggling but still managing around 230. By hour 5, lunch break, I practically collapsed in the break room and immediately pulled out my phone. My Instagram post had 52 likes and a bunch of comments. Yes, queen. Show them what women can do. This is what real feminism looks like. I wanted to feel validated, but my feet were actively throbbing. The second half of the shift blurred together. Just scan, grab, trying not to think about how much my body hurt. My cart felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds, even though I knew that was impossible. I checked my scanner stats at hour 9, 198 items per hour average. Below quota. When I finally clocked out at 4 p.m, my Fitbit said 14.7 miles. My lower back felt like someone had taken a baseball bat to it. Liam caught me at the exit. First day's always the hardest. Your body'll adapt after a week or so. I forced myself to sound casual. Yeah, just need to get used to the movements. I drove home in complete silence, went straight to my apartment and collapsed on my bed, fully clothed with ice packs on both feet. Okay, I thought, staring at my ceiling. That was harder than I expected, but it's just an adjustment period. My body needs to adapt. This is literally what adaptation is. Week 1 was brutal, but I told myself that was normal. Everyone struggles at a new physical job at first. The men probably went through the same thing when they started. They just don't talk about it because of toxic masculinity. My feet had blisters under blisters. My back went into spasms when I bent over to pick something up. I started taking 800 milligrams of ibuprofen before each shift. At my marketing job, Amber asked if I was okay after she found me asleep at my desk. I told her I was fine, just busy. At the warehouse, I was averaging 245 items per hour. Still below quota, but improving, technically. I watched the men around me, Liam, Jake, these older guys who'd been there for years, and they made it look effortless. But I started noticing that some of them looked tired too. One guy was limping. Another had his entire forearm wrapped in a brace. See? It was hard for everyone. This wasn't a gender thing. During my second week, I saw 3 workers clocking out at 4 p.m. Then I saw their names on the board for the 8 p.m. shift. "You're coming back?" I asked one of them. This guy who looked about 40, "Yeah, doing a double, need the overtime." That's when something clicked. The $19 an hour base rate. That wasn't the real story. These guys were doing 50, 60-hour weeks. That's where the money was. The overtime. The voluntary extra shifts that paid time and a half. Of course. The system was designed to require overtime to make a living wage. That's how capitalism works. They advertise a decent hourly rate, but structure it so you have to sacrifice your entire life to actually earn it. I could barely finish my 30-hour week without my body shutting down. But that's because I wasn't adapted yet. I was also working my marketing job. If I was doing this full-time, my body would adjust, obviously. During a break in week 2, I was sitting with a group of workers I vaguely recognized. I was exhausted, my feet were killing me, and I said without really thinking, "It's just crazy that the pay gap is still so real, you know? Like statistically, women earn less for the same work, and it's because jobs coded as masculine are artificially inflated in value while... Who's paying you less? This woman across from me, the only other one there, wearing the full warehouse uniform with her hair tied back in a tight bun, looked up from her protein bar. I mean, structurally, systemically... "I'm Brenda," she interrupted. "I make $55,000 here. That's more than most of the guys on my shift." I blinked. "How?" "I work 52 hours a week. I hit 360 pick rate consistently. I've been here 2 years and 7 months. I do the work." I felt defensive. "Right, but the issue is that you have to work 52 hours to make that when..." "Look," Brenda said, and her tone was flat, almost bored. "I don't know what point you're trying to prove here, But this job isn't a political statement. It's a paycheck. You either want it or you don't. Liam, sitting at the next table, tried to smooth things over. Brenda's legitimately one of our top performers, like top 5 in the whole facility. What she's saying is the money's there if you can handle the volume. I didn't respond, just sat there feeling attacked for literally no reason. Later that day, my supervisor Rachel pulled me aside near the end of my shift. Jessica, I need to talk to you about your numbers. You're averaging 247. Company standard is 300 minimum. I know you're new, but we need to see consistent improvement by the end of this month, or we'll have to move you to a different position or separate. Okay? My stomach dropped. I'm trying. I know you are, she said, but not particularly warmly. But effort isn't the same as results. Watch the experienced people talk to Liam. Figure out what you need to adjust. Okay? That night, I sat in my car in the warehouse parking lot and cried. I told myself it was just frustration adjustment period. My body was still adapting. But watching Brenda move through the floor like some kind of machine, watching Liam laugh with co-workers while maintaining a 380 pick rate, I started to feel this creeping sense that no, I could do this. I just needed more time. And maybe if I wasn't also working my marketing job, I'd have more energy. And maybe if I'd played sports in high school, like the guys probably did, I'd have better baseline endurance. And maybe if the warehouse actually provided proper training instead of just throwing people onto the floor, I'd be at 300 by now. There were a lot of structural issues here. That's what I was really learning. Week 3, I was falling apart in both jobs. At marketing, I missed a client deadline. Snapped at Kyle when he asked if I'd reviewed his designs. My boss pulled me aside. Jessica, is everything all right? You seem off lately. I'm fine. Just a lot going on. At the warehouse, I was stuck at 255 to 265 items per hour. On a really good hour, when I was fresh and caffeinated, I could hit 285. But I couldn't maintain it. My body wouldn't cooperate. I tried staying for overtime once, just once. Made it through 2 extra hours before I started feeling dizzy and had to leave early. So embarrassing. Meanwhile, I watched Liam casually clock a 14-hour shift. The next day, I saw his name on the board for another 14. How do you do that? I asked him during break, trying not to sound as impressed as I felt. He shrugged. Bills. Plus you get used to it. First year was rough, but now it's just automatic. First year. He said first year. I'd been there 3 weeks and felt like I was dying, but he'd also been doing this for 3 years. Obviously, he'd built up to it. If I stuck it out for a year, I'd probably be fine too. That's how physical adaptation works. Middle of a shift, I hid in the bathroom stall and cried. My feet were bleeding, actual blood soaking through my socks. I looked at myself in the mirror, dark circles under my eyes, weight dropping off me, this hollow look I didn't recognize. I heard other men come in, casual conversation. You picking up the Saturday double? Yeah, trying to save up for my daughter's braces. They sounded completely normal, like this was just regular life. I realized something I didn't want to realize. These men weren't struggling like I was. They'd adapted. Their bodies had changed. They'd become the kind of people who could do this. I hadn't. But that doesn't mean I couldn't. It just meant I needed more time. And maybe I wasn't eating enough protein. And maybe I needed better shoes. And maybe... I forced myself to just watch for 1 full hour instead of panicking about my rate. Liam's movements were economical. No wasted motion, he'd memorized the entire floor layout. Brenda was listening to a podcast, moving like she was in a meditative flow state. Jake was 6 feet 2 inches. His stride covered more ground. His reach got top shelf items without the step stool. It wasn't just effort, it was efficiency built over time, physical advantages, shortcuts that took months to learn, but that didn't mean I couldn't learn it. The learning curve was just steeper than I'd anticipated. My last week, I was barely conscious most of the time. I was averaging 270 items per hour on my best days. My body was held together by ibuprofen, denial, and the fact that I'd told 52 people on Instagram I was doing this. I hadn't posted about it since week 1. My last scheduled shift was a Friday. I clocked in at 6 a.m., already planning how I'd phrase my resignation. Then I saw the scheduling board, Liam's name, 6 a.m. to 4 p.m., break, 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. A double shift, 20 hours of actual work. I stared at it like it was written in a language I didn't speak. During lunch, I found him in the break room. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Why do you do doubles?" He looked at me like the answer was obvious. "I've got 2 kids. Rent is $2,100 a month for a 2-bedroom. Trying to save for a down payment so my kids can have a house with a yard. Overtime's time and a half, I can clear $850, $900 in a weekend if I push it." "But doesn't it?" I didn't know how to ask what I wanted to ask. "Doesn't it destroy you?" He smiled a little. "First year, yeah, absolutely. Now? I don't really think about it. It's just what I do." I felt something crack in my chest. I don't think I could ever do that. His expression softened. "Most people can't. That's not a bad thing. It's just, if this job isn't for everyone, doesn't mean those people are weak or lazy or whatever. Just means different people are built for different things." I wanted to argue with him. Wanted to explain that it wasn't about being built for it. It was about structural inequalities and how capitalism forces people into impossible situations and how gendered socialization creates different physical outcomes that aren't innate, but learned but I was so tired. "Yeah," I said. "Maybe." I finished my shift, put in my notice. They didn't make me work the 2 weeks I was gone that day. Rachel found me at my locker. Not for everyone. No shame in it. I just nodded. Monday morning, back at my marketing desk. The fluorescent lights felt gentle. My chair felt like a luxury. The coffee was terrible, and I loved it. "How'd the warehouse thing go?" Amber asked. "It was interesting. Good experience, not continuing with it though." Dave caught my eye from across the room. Didn't say anything, just gave me this small nod. I nodded back. That week, someone brought up the pay gap in a meeting. I stayed quiet. Not because I'd changed my mind, but because every time I thought about saying something, I saw Liam's face when he talked about his kids. Saw Brenda moving through the warehouse like it was nothing. Saw my own pick rate, 270. That night, I looked at the job posting again. Warehouse associate, $19 per hour base. I thought about Liam doing a 20-hour double. Thought about Brenda's 52-hour weeks. Thought about how my body gave out at 30. I closed the tab, deleted my Instagram post from week 1. No big revelation, no apology to Dave. No admission I was wrong. Just quieter now. I still think the pay gap is real. I still think masculine-coded work is artificially valued higher than feminine-coded labor. I just don't use the warehouse as my example anymore. Not because I couldn't do it. Obviously, with enough time, proper training, maybe a better nutrition plan, I could have gotten there. I just decided it wasn't worth proving. That's different.